Hey everybody, it's Eric Torenberg, co-founder, partner of Village Global, a network-driven venture firm. And this is Venture Stories, a podcast covering topics relating to tech and business with world-leading experts.
Welcome to Village Global's Venture Stories. I'm Ann Duane, co-founder and partner here at Village Global. Today, we have with us Nick Grandy, co-founder and head of product at Outschool, and Wesley Samples, co-founder and COO of Sora Schools. And so without further ado, I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves. So Wesley, over to you. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hey everyone, I'm Wesley Samples, one of the co-founders, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Sora Schools. We're an online project-based high school, and we're on a mission to build the best high school in the world.
Hi there. Great to be chatting today. I'm Nick. I'm one of the co-founders of Outschool, and I'm the head of product as well. Outschool is a marketplace of live online classes for learners ages 3 to 18. And a little relevant background about me, I was also, as a teacher early in my career, a high school teacher at a private school in Brooklyn, where I taught high school physics. And previously was an early employee at Airbnb, which was a formative experience for me in terms of peer-to-peer marketplaces, and also worked at Clever, another ed tech company.
Wow. So Outschool seems like the perfect fusion of all of those in a sense.
Bring it all together.
Great. And now let's turn it over. And again, we'll ask each of you to describe your vision for the future of high school. And Wesley, can we start with you?
Sure. So it's Sora's philosophy that high school should be about engagement, exploration, and most importantly, building internal motivation in students. And these are all areas that the traditional model has failed us in quite dramatically. And so we believe that students should be enthusiastic about school and, should be coming into school, getting the quench of their curiosity in hands-on ways and kind of chasing the rabbit of things that are interesting to them. And the way we think about it is we want students to have explored enough to be able to make a conscious decision of what's next on their path. And so one thing that we do kind of in this regard is if you look at a Sora transcript, it's kind of it's a picture of a path that students have taken throughout high school, the mistakes that they've made, the different kind of turns that they've made along the way, and they have a goal at the end. And the goal is not college, or the goal is not that career opportunity that they have. It's where they want to be in the future. And one step back from that is college or a job or an internship that they want that's going to be able to get them to that place. And so we really try to focus on helping students be more intentional in their education experience.
And I'm just curious, do students in high school know what they want? And how do you help them shape that?
Not a lot of high schoolers have an idea of what they want to do. Maybe they've seen something that they think is interesting. Maybe they've come across a topic. And we have programs that are designed to help them be able to kind of narrow that down and try some things. And so through our tracks program, we have what we call an explorers track. And that's really just talking to different mentors, finding different artifacts, coming back and having a discussion about it with their advisor, and just kind of kicking off some early projects early in the program to kind of get a feel for what might be working, what doesn't, and building from there. And so throughout a Sora education, a student has had multiple opportunities and multiple kind of pathways that they've explored and are narrowing it down along the way.
Super. And now, Nick, can you share your and Outschool's vision of the future of school?
Yeah, for sure. And first, I have to say, I love what Sora Schools is doing. And Wesley, it's totally amazing. And I think that your vision is very consistent with what we're building at Outschool. So at Outschool, we're all about learner autonomy. And our mission is to inspire kids to love learning. And, we actually believe that kids do love learning naturally. And when kids don't like school and when they don't like learning, it's typically because they've been put in situations that they didn't want to be in or that have been negative in some way. And if you go back to this starting point of learner autonomy and letting kids really choose what they want to do and sort of where their interests lie and engage kids through their interests, you'll end up with a world where kids do love learning and they want to learn more. And that's really our North Star at Outschool. And so I'll respond to this in sort of at a higher level way because we are a marketplace for learners ages 3 to 18. And that North Star does, guide us across all ages, understanding, of course, that as kids get older, they have greater ability to be independent and have more autonomy. So we've really started bottoms up in creating a community marketplace for learning where kids and parents have autonomy to choose classes that they want to take. And teachers also have the autonomy about what classes they want to offer. And when you put those two elements together, you really get amazing results because teachers are leading classes that they're excited to be teaching, and all the kids are excited to be there. And that's just a very different learning experience and environment than what you'll find in most other classrooms around the country and even the world.
That's great. Well, and also, Nick, can you give a little bit of color on the sheer numbers of Outschool these days? Because it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. So at Outschool, we have, I think, over 11,000 teachers offering classes. We've served approaching 1 million learners who have participated in our live classes. We have over 100,000 unique classes offered through our marketplace. And, over the last year or year and a half of COVID, our business has grown roughly 15x. So we've just had tremendous growth over the last year and a half.
And can I clarify too, Nick, is Outschool a companion to school, or do you enroll in Outschool as its own school?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I can see why our name is misleading in that regard. We're not a school. And, that name actually comes from the value of learning experiences that occur outside of the school context. And so that's the origin. So we are a supplemental learning resource for families. And we start as a direct-to-consumer company. And, our initial audience and user base was largely homeschoolers who had the greatest need and, the highest demand for a resource like Outschool. And over time, we've expanded, and especially through the pandemic, we've expanded our audience dramatically so that we're serving, all kinds of families across US and around the world. We've also started in the last year to partner with schools. And so we definitely see ourselves as a partner with schools rather than a replacement or in opposition to traditional schools. We recognize the reality. Schools are where most learners spend most of their time. And if we want to have the greatest impact and help more kids to inspire more kids to love learning, we'll be able to do that most successfully if we engage with existing schools and existing systems and organizations to help reach more learners and affect change that way. So we did start with the consumer business, and we're now adding in our schools business. We're partnering with organizations like Sora Schools and other districts and schools to reach more kids.
Okay, so that's a perfect segue, Nick, to how is Outschool and Sora Schools working? And maybe Wesley, do you want to describe it?
Sure. And we've just entered this partnership. So I'll say we're kind of figuring out things along. But yeah, so we're a month into our partnership with Outschool. So we're fine tuning, but I think it's safe to say that we're both, excited to open up this world of learning opportunities. And this comes back to one of our goals here at Sora, where it's, when a student is exposed to something that's interesting to them and one of our learning experiences, we want them to continue to follow that and continue to, have that inquiry in that space and, as niche as it can go. And Outschool is one of our partners who can help us do that. And so one thing that Outschool is amazing at is y'all have incredible teachers, and we're excited to connect our students with those people who are really the masters of the content and have been at the forefront of the spaces that they've worked in or taught in. And that's a really exciting opportunity for our students to be able to engage with that. On top of, and there's kind of another angle of Outschool that we're excited about, is this whole, we want to say extracurricular piece where, with your partnership team, we're putting together a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu course for our students to engage with, yoga courses to supplement our days with, stuff like that it would be impossible for us as a school to, staff that ourselves. And you guys provide an awesome opportunity for our students to engage with those activities.
Got it. And just to clarify, Wesley, your students are enrolling in Sora Schools, and
Yes.
you're an accredited institution. So
Yes.
you're providing the access to Outschool classes plus other programming.
Totally. Yes. And we're actually putting Outschool courses into our schedule so it can happen during our school day alongside our other courses.
Super. And then, Nick, as you think about partnering with schools, how do you think about a relationship with Sora or others?
Yeah, I think it's a great model. And Sora Schools is a forward-thinking organization, like a number of other schools that we partner who are prioritizing learner choice and learner autonomy in the education that they're providing. So Outschool is, we're positioned as a marketplace. We have an amazing selection, and families can use Outschool in different ways to support their kids with existing topics, to explore new interests, to try new things, to find their new favorite teacher. And we see families using us in widely different ways, from taking classes once a month, once a week, to families who are where their kids are taking hours of Outschool class every day. So we support a really wide variety of use cases. And I think that makes us a good partner for school systems who want to bring that variety and use that resource to support their program in different ways. So another example of this is dating back several years, we've partnered with some charter schools who provide funds to families to choose what classes to take. So we've actually had pre-existing partnerships with some charter schools oriented towards homeschoolers. And increasingly what we're seeing is traditional districts taking advantage of that, particularly in the last year. There's been dramatic change in, with COVID, with hybrid learning. And so now we're seeing rapid movement where, traditional districts who typically might have moved a little bit more slowly are now considering dramatically different models.
And Wesley, as an accredited school, how do you think about making sure that students learn what their need there from further any requirements, and or potentially some of them might want to take some standardized tests or AP tests or something like that. So how do you pick from the smorgasbord of Outschool and other resources and balance those needs?
Totally. Well, one thing that's been great about working with the Outschool team is when we've been able to be super granular with, can we talk to this one specific teacher about this offering? Like, can we move this here? Here's our skills map, like we have at Sora, which is a map of all the standards that we want students to be able to master. We can talk to them about okay, here's how this could connect. And part of our trial with Outschool that we've done is being able to kind of make these linkages and kind of understand how we can work that in the future. And so we're able to look at it at a very granular level there, but at more of a global level across all partnerships, we're doing the same thing. And so Sora's philosophy is, working with students and working with our experts, but also our partners to be able to link back to this core skills map that we have for our students and everything that they're doing. And so students are tagging and self-assessing, faculty are tagging and self-assessing. So yeah.
Got it. And then let's talk a little bit, just so people are clear, how this gets paid for. So in the case of Sora Schools, people are paying tuition, right, to be students. Okay. And can you talk a little bit about how Sora Schools is priced versus, say, other online high schools or private schools or charter schools?
Totally. So our tuition all in is just under $10,000 a year. We're at $9,600. This includes all the materials that they need for learning, including Outschool, books, equipment, supplies, anything that they need. But additionally, we believe that to prepare students to explore the world, our school community should reflect a diverse student body that is representative of all socioeconomic backgrounds. And so we also have a flexible tuition program that allows families to apply for a sliding scale tuition model. And so right now with our partnership, we're giving students basically a quota on Outschool courses that they can take kind of within that monthly tuition that they're paying us. And we're going to see where it goes from there.
Super. And then Nick, how do you think about pricing direct to consumer or to schools? And just curious for anything you can share about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are structured as a marketplace where teachers control and choose what classes they offer, what schedule they're teaching on, and what prices they're charging. So that's the model that we use initially for consumers. So, families are enrolling in specific classes with a specific price chosen by the teacher. And that's the same model that is currently applying to schools as well. So basically, when schools make use of Outschool, they're still paying a cost per learner per class that they're taking. And, on the backside of that, I'll mention that, the way we monetize is by taking a service fee. So of all the money that goes through Outschool, 30% of that is paid comes to Outschool as the platform service fee.
Got it. And how do you decide what classes make the cut?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question with a couple answers. The first is that we're a marketplace. So we've never seen it as our role to choose exactly what classes should be offered on Outschool. Our role is really about setting up the right support structure to empower teachers and to empower learners. That said, we are an educational service catering to families and to kids. And so, of course, we have to provide a high quality and trusted and safe learning environment. And that means that we do have to do some amount of moderation around what teachers we bring onto the platform and what classes we choose to publish on the platform and support. And that's a really challenging area, actually, because it, as anyone who's following tech news these days is aware, sort of content policy and content moderation is really tricky. So we've had to develop a muscle around that from the early days because it's something that we have to do well if we're going to be successful. So we do screen all the teachers that we bring onto Outschool, and we do screen each class that we publish. And on an ongoing basis, we're developing policies around what specific classes we support.
Got it. And what is the interactivity level with these classes?
Yeah, so this gets to the heart of our model. Our focus is small group live online classes. So think 5 to 10 kids with a teacher meeting over Zoom, because that is the platform that powers the live interaction piece of Outschool. And so, this was actually something that was pretty new and unusual about 18 months ago. And at that point in time, we were having to educate the market and sort of go out to people and say, hey, this is a really compelling new experience where you can connect with teachers and kids around the world and have this amazing learning experience. And then during a year and a half of COVID, of course, everybody has learned about live video for better and for worse. But that interaction is core to Outschool, and we think learning is better when it's social. We are a community. And, the live interaction piece is supplemented by asynchronous interaction. We provide a classroom for each class where kids and teachers can interact asynchronously. And that async interaction is definitely part of our future as well. And the key thing is that kids are building relationships with teachers and other learners, and that the learning experience is a social one.
And what have you both learned about socializing with students and teachers online? It's so different than traditional schools.
Totally. And so we've had to find that balance of async versus sync communication over time. We use a platform called Discord. And so a lot of we have a lot of just emerging activity with students where they'll jump into voice channels to collaborate on projects. We have a very, I would say, flat hierarchy in our community. And so students are collaborating directly with our teachers on everything from expedition design to actually building and operating the school. And that's been a huge win for us, I would say, in the virtual space, but also kind of, the nature of us being a school. And so I can say more about that, but it's been fascinating so far.
What I'd add to that is that our key learning is that kids want to engage with other kids that share their interests.
Yep.
And so that's one of the huge things that we offer is the ability to connect with people around shared interests, whether that happens over live video or asynchronously. We also use a range of tools to support that interaction, including Zoom, including the classroom product that we've built, and then other third-party tools as well, because there are many other great tools out there that support education. And so using those as part of the Outschool experience.
I'll also echo the interest comment that you made there, because that's king in our model. We've asked students, because we put them in specific houses, and you can think of this as like a homeroom group to do their stand-up and their checkpoint each day. And they would rather be in an interest-based house than a time zone-based house. And so they'd rather wake up at a ridiculous time to be with students who share an interest than wake up at a normal time so that's just one kind of data point that we found there. It's been kind of fascinating.
Yeah. And can either of you or both of you share stats about what is the change that's afoot in the adoption of online school?
I feel like these numbers are changing very rapidly, and so it's hard to get a good pin on it. Of course, so many learners were full-time remote or hybrid, last year, and now we're going back to in person. But I think what's clear is that things have changed permanently, and there are many families who will not go back to the way things. And even this year, we're seeing states and districts embrace remote learning in a way that, in a very significant way. So California, for example, mandating that all districts do support remote learning for any kid who wants it, basically. And, I think it's going to be very difficult for districts to really go back once families have experienced the benefits of that remote learning, the flexibility that it offers. And, once districts have had to sort of cross some of those barriers to make this work, they'll also be in a better position to sustain it going forwards.
Totally. And I think we're finally overcoming the stereotype that remote learning typically has, schools typically have. And I remember in the beginning of Sora, I was like, no, this isn't videos and tests online. We actually have a community and this is the way it's going. And I think, this has kind of evolved in our favor where there are, many other players in the space who are kind of innovating. So people kind of understand a school could be a community online and that their student can engage with other students and not just be isolated. And so it's not, some people are also seeing schools not as remedial or for credit recovery, virtual schools, not for those things. They could be a core academic experience that's engaging for their students. It's one thing that we've kind of noticed. The expectations have changed. And I think and I'll say largely with progressive school models online, I think retention is going up too. I have a lot of friends who are leaders of traditional online schools, and they struggle with retention year over year because it has been seen as, something that's temporary, or, the family's going into a credit recovery situation or something like that. But we haven't been seeing the same numbers in a positive way. And so, and a lot of other schools haven't either. And so I think something's happening in the space there. I'd be curious to see in the next couple of years, how that continues to evolve.
Yeah. And I think that the reality is changing, and online learning is becoming a better choice for families. If you rewind 5 or 10 years, this is actually a pretty terrible experience, right? So people watching video snippets and taking a quiz with little to no interaction with anybody. And, that's not engaging. And so part of what's had to happen is a better options has been created through the combination of live online video chat, and then programs that offer more autonomy and choice and sort of a different structure. And then that has to get rolled out, and the market has to get educated that actually there is a different and better option out there for online learning. And it's not what it was 10 years ago. And I think that awareness is now getting out there as well.
Totally.
It's really interesting. If school is not tough medicine, if you're both focused on making learning fun, then it does seem like your kinds of classes or school could actually compete with gaming or other forms of entertainment. Is there evidence that's happening?
I'll share that, on Outschool, we have an expansive view of the kinds of classes that belong in our marketplace. And basically, so long as it doesn't do harm, it's fair game for our marketplace. So we actually have a lot of classes that are oriented around games, around Minecraft or other video games on Outschool. And I'd also offer that this, many people kind of have this notion of learning and fun being on opposite ends of the spectrum, and I just want to blow that up. Yeah. I think that is so wrong, and it's somehow sort of come down in our culture that those things are in opposition, and that is not the case, and just shouldn't be the case.
Well, in fact, in gaming, learning is the fun, and the fact that there are challenges, including having your character get killed, right, and you have to start again, is, while it's frustrating, it's actually quite a compelling experience sometimes, right?
One thing that we're thinking about because we're building our own custom LMS, is designing for different player types of students. You can kind of draw that parallel where there's the achievers, the killers, who are the ones who want to go head to head with other students in a competitive way, the explorers and socializers, and kind of just there's different needs for each of these players, and how to design for them is something that we've been thinking a lot about recently, as well as a lot of our expeditions are game-based. And so we do a Dungeons and Dragons expedition every cycle where, we'll choose a historical context. The different players will be different characters from that time period. And there's a big writing component to this, and students really just eat it up. And so I think the other thing is like a lot of our students want to go into game design. And so it's kind of a natural, like if I can choose what I want my learning experience to be, and I like playing video games, like why don't I try to learn how to make games, and kind of making that leap and, doing it in our program is something that a lot of students have done.
That's super cool. We also have a lot of Dungeons and Dragons classes on Outschool as well. I'll mention and recognize that yes, games historically have done video games have done a great job of helping people learn how to play the game, and better than many classrooms and schools, I think. So we all do have something to learn there.
Yeah, you very rarely read an instruction manual or a textbook about how to play a game.
Right.
You just start playing, right? Like kind of like life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you were talking to a student or a parent that's thinking about diving in for the first time, either to Outschool classes or to an online high school like Sora Schools, what would you tell them? What should they know before diving in?
For Outschool, I would ask them what they're interested in and invite them to check out those topics on Outschool. Because at this point, with over 150,000 classes, we really do have classes on most topics. And so people can search for, they're like, Spanish with Taylor Swift lyrics, or, whatever, dinosaurs, horses, any animal, like learn how to draw an owl, and like that they're likely to find classes on Outschool that engage with that interest. And so that's the starting point that I use for new families.
Similar to Sora, but yeah, come visit, come join one of our sessions, come join one of our D&D campaigns, kind of just jump in and see how it goes. We host these kind of visit days every couple of weeks for families to just jump in, parent and student jump into our learning experience, and ask questions, engage with the class, and see where things go from there. It is, we'd love to figure out if there is an interest that we can connect with. If not, we'd love to figure out, maybe what you've been thinking about as, a 13 or 14-year-old. Sometimes that's not much of anything. And so, happy to connect you with one of our faculty members just to kind of, talk through that and talk through kind of your experience in school up to this point. So I would say similar, just jump in and
it seems like, while I think the idea of preparing for a good life, and a happy life in addition to a successful life, is a goal, college is often something that's on people's minds, parents and students. Is there a trade-off for a student to not be in as structured a traditional school when they're either applying to college or preparing to succeed in college, or do you not see it that way?
We don't think so. We don't think there's a trade-off. We knew getting into this that we would have to build a robust enough program to be able to meet those requirements to get students into college. And we've very much done that from the ground up. And so we actually think, and this is, in conversations that we've had with admissions counselors, like we actually think that our students are a little bit more pointy and they're a little bit more directed in a certain direction. And they actually like that a lot, because it's like, it's clear that you've demonstrated interest in this area, and here's your portfolio and everything to prove it. And, those are the students that they're looking for. And so we've had great conversations about our senior class that just graduated and got accepted into some great schools, and, kind of continuously as we've met with more admissions and more colleges over time.
Outschool is not we're not an accredited high school program, but we do think that the best thing we can do for kids is set them up to love learning, right? And if that is there, then they'll be set up for life in a way that is better than sort of going through any specific program.
Yeah.
I'm curious, by the way, Wesley, if I can ask, you guys are accredited. How did you handle that part?
So it was kind of surprising. Like when we went through the accreditation process, we were concerned that they were going to look at like classes and, kind of really pick our model apart. And that's not what happened. In both instances, because we've been accredited twice at this point, in both instances, we've had the visiting team come in and say, wow, like your students are so engaged, like your parents are engaged, they're aware of what's going on, and their students are communicating with about that. We love how faculty are collaborating with students, and this is a breath of fresh air that we haven't seen in the 15 to 20 years we've been doing this. That was the thing that really pushed it over the edge for them to be able to accredit our school. And we have all the base academic requirements in place, but that was the thing that like they've been looking for, and it's kind of the top of a lot of their diagnostics that they're looking for, but they don't see that in traditional schools. So they were super impressed.
That's super cool. It's awesome you guys could do that. It's certainly a question that Outschool gets sometimes, will you become accredited? Do you offer, which we don't at the moment, but certainly something that could happen down the line. And, related to that is how we think about who our teachers are and the kind of classes that we provide, where we don't actually require our teachers to be certified in a particular way or under a particular state. About 70% of our teachers are former professional educators, so they have been certified or trained in some way. But we also think that there are many adults who have skills, passions, interests that make them great educators for kids. You mentioned like someone who worked at NASA, right? Maybe they're not a former professional educator, but they may be able to lead amazing classes for kids through Outschool. And so sort of that approach that we take is just a little bit different than traditional education.
And kind of building on that, can social emotional learning and social skills be taught in an all digital environment?
Totally. I'll say we're running Project Wayfinder now at Sora. We have weekly group sessions in all the houses, and it's been super successful. So we focus on purpose and belonging. I know Outschool has a bunch of SEL courses as well that you're probably going to want to talk about, but we've been exploring those too as offerings. So definitely.
Yeah. I'll take the bait. We do offer a category of classes called life skills. So that is social emotional learning. And there's a huge range of classes there. It's one of our most popular categories of class. And we just see a huge amount of interest and, very positive experiences there. And for sure, kids are having richer relationships and learning how to have rich relationships through their classes in Outschool.
Great. And Wesley, is work or internships, is that part of the Sora model? And if so, how does that work for high school students online?
Sure. So the natural progression of our tracks program is towards some type of work experience or getting an internship. And so you come in, you learn how projects work, you're in the explorers track, and then maybe you get into our engineering track. And then your job is to work your role in the engineering track is to work with our track advisor, who is a professional from the space, to help build a portfolio over time of your projects that eventually could be leveraged to get an internship or a job in our program. And so we have students on these cycles, and we've started to see some success with this. We have one student who's working at a video game development company right now. We have one student who really wants to get into like early childhood education, who's working at a school right now. We have a couple of other students who are digital artists who are commissioning their work right now. So we're starting to see success with that program, but that's, all about portfolio building kind of against the career path that you want to be on, and building skills to actually go out and reach for an internship.
I'm looking for those NFTs that they're creating.
Totally.
So do either of you want to share a prediction about learning in the future, or just simply share a goal for you and your teams and students in the next year or two?
Yeah, I'll share a prediction that we are entering a period of rapid change for education systems around the world. And that may sound so obvious as to be uninteresting, but I think that the pandemic has really just kind of fractured the status quo in a way that's just beginning to play out. So we saw the shock of the last year, and then we'll see some, continued, a disrupted school year because of the continuation of COVID. But I think that this has opened districts to change in a way that they previously were not, which sort of, not open. And so I'm incredibly optimistic about the changes that we will see in the years ahead in education systems in the US and also around the world.
One curiosity I have is kind of connected to what you're saying, Nick, is I'm curious how Sora's price point works worldwide, because you have these very expensive international schools, but there's really nothing kind of under that at the local level and a lot of these places. And so I'm curious what that could look like. Plus, just opening Sora internationally broadly, what that could look like. We have a giant international wait list, but we haven't really jumped into it yet because we're still growing here domestically and we're concerned with time zones and everything like that. But I think that's a market that could really benefit from what we're providing. And hey, we're online, so we can serve anybody anywhere. So that's a curiosity of mine.
Yeah, it's so cool that you've seen the interest there. I mean, I'm optimistic that the cost of a good education can get dramatically lower as we build out the right platforms to support it. That the cost of connecting people becomes very, very cheap, and a lot of the interactions are, about bringing people together. So, with what you guys are doing and just the other changes in the market, it's possible that we could see, in the not too distant future, just a much lower cost and much higher quality education available for kids around the world. That change is underway already.
Wonderful. I guess one question I have for you, Nick, is in this, I don't want to completely destroy our virtual schooling conversation, but have y'all ever considered gathering and students locally and in some parts around an Outschool teacher or, experimenting with that?
Yeah. So fun fact, Outschool started with in-person activities.
Okay.
And so when we started Outschool, the premise that we organized around was a marketplace for education and this idea of learner autonomy. But at the time, we were actually skeptical about online learning, because when we started this 6 years ago, a lot of the online learning was not a good experience. And so we had to prove to ourselves that you could create compelling learning experiences online, which we did. And, that's been a much more effective way to scale up the business. But it would be really cool to bring people together in person again. So, I would love for that to be part of our future.
And Nick, can you share any metrics about the percent of Outschool users that are outside the United States?
So Outschool has always been available to customers around the world. People have been able to enroll from wherever they are. So we've had people enroll from over 170 countries. And, that's one part of Outschool that I think is so cool, that we connect people across communities, right? Whether it's a different part of the city, another state, or another country. And so there's a lot of Outschool classes where we have kids from multiple countries participating in that class. And that's a kind of connection that just doesn't happen very, very frequently. That's always been a significant subset of it has actually grown during the pandemic as we've seen education systems disrupted in so many countries around the world. And I don't believe we're sharing particular numbers around that.
That's fine. And one other thing, few companies grow 15x in a year. And curious, obviously this is maybe the silver lining of the pandemic, as people could find great learning opportunities online. Anything else that you did to support that growth?
Yeah, we hustled really, really hard. We were well positioned for it because as a marketplace, all we had to do was keep up with supply and demand. So when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, we saw this incredible demand shock on the system. And what we saw is that our supply was surprisingly elastic, right? The teachers on Outschool were able to offer more classes and teach more hours. And those classes were able to go from being partially full to full. So we actually were able to scale up the supply on Outschool dramatically, even in March and April of those first years. And then over the subsequent months, we hustled to add more teachers to the platform and scaled from 1,000 teachers on Outschool before COVID to 6,000 teachers 6 months after the pandemic started. And so at that point, sort of 6 months in, supply had finally caught up with demand. And so we had to scale to bring on that supply. We had to scale up our team. We went from 25 employees before to over 60 in a few months. We're now 140 team members and still growing.
Wonderful. Well, any last thoughts or questions that you folks want to get in?
I'd offer a few thoughts around the upcoming school year, where we all need to figure out a way to help kids and teachers and parents stay safe while not letting their love of learning and their education fall behind. And we want schools and parents to know that online learning can be impactful, effective, and social. Yep. And it can inspire a love of learning. And we see that every day at Outschool. And, for this back to school, we offer extracurriculars for learners. And we have relationships with schools. We're expanding our relationships with schools and employers to help provide support for parents and kids.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, both of you. That's excellent.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ann.
If you're an early stage entrepreneur, we'd love to hear from you. Check us out at villageglobal.vc.